Imagine a morning that begins not with the usual, "Sorry, I'm late because I got stuck in a terrible traffic jam," but with a loud and undeniable, "I'm late because I was too lazy to get out of bed, and then I spent another 20 minutes scrolling through social media because my job doesn't inspire me at all." Imagine a world where the phrase, "You look great," disappears when someone has put on something absolutely tasteless, where billboards announce, "Buy our cream. It won't make your skin look any younger, but will make millions from your insecurities." Where politicians sigh into the microphone during election debates, "I have no idea how to overcome the economic crisis, but I really want to get my hands on the budget." A world without lies is one of the most fascinating philosophical experiments. If you think about it deeply, absolute truthfulness is not simply the absence of deception. It is a complete restructuring of human civilization, language, psychology, ethics, and social institutions. What would our world look like if a global disruption in human neurobiology permanently deprived us of the ability to lie? The first 24 hours, the great social shock. If this change happened instantaneously, the first day in a world without lies would resemble a global catastrophe. Human society relies on an enormous number of small conditional agreements, polite omissions, and tactful silences. We are used to calling this social lubricant. Without this lubricant, the mechanism of civilization would jam instantly. Catastrophe in families and relationships. Millions of marriages would fall apart within the first few hours. Husbands and wives would discover what their partners actually think about each other, whether they consider each other attractive, whether they regret the day they got married, and how they really feel about their relatives. Chaos in the workplace. Offices would turn into battle zones. At every turn, people would hear sincere assessments of the professional abilities of their colleagues in management. "I consider you an incompetent manager who got this position because of your connections," would be the response, instead of the usual, "Okay, I'll do this report." Diplomatic collapse. World politics would grind to a halt. Ambassadors would be unable to negotiate because diplomatic etiquette is the art of concealing real intentions. States would be forced to openly reveal their intelligence reports, strategic interests, and true attitudes toward their allies. For several days, the world would descend into chaos, shock, and wounded pride. However, once the first wave of emotions subsided, humanity would have to adapt to the new reality. Politics, economics, and business, the end of illusions. Modern economics and politics are largely built on marketing, persuasion, distortion of facts, and manipulation. How would these fields change when lying became physically impossible? Politics without promises. The democratic system in its current form would cease to exist. Election campaigns would turn into festivals of dry statistics and admissions of one's own limitations. Candidates would no longer be able to say, "I will lower taxes and increase pensions." They would have to say, "If we lower taxes, we won't have enough money for health care, so you will have to pay for treatment out of your own pocket. Besides, I want to become president because of my own ambitions." This would lead to real pragmatists and professionals coming to power. On the other hand, voters would have to face the bitter truth that there are no simple solutions to complex problems. The economy of transparency and the death of marketing. Modern marketing sells not things, but emotions and illusions. In a world of absolute truth, marketing in its familiar form would die. Advertising. "Buy this car. It breaks down every 50,000 kilometers. The parts are expensive, but the design was created so that your neighbors will think you are richer than you actually are." The food industry. "This yogurt contains so much sugar that you risk harming your health, but we added green coloring so that you would think it is healthy." The beauty industry. "This cream works exactly like ordinary baby oil, but we sell it 50 times more expensively because of the beautiful packaging. Consumption would become rational. People would buy only what they genuinely need and what actually matches the advertised specifications. This would lead to the collapse of many corporations, but it would create a market for high quality and honest products. Justice, science, and medicine. The triumph of efficiency. If truth became a challenge for the social sphere, for some fields it would mean an absolute breakthrough. Courts and justice. The justice system would become maximally efficient and fast. Long months of investigations, lie detectors, and lengthy interrogations would no longer be necessary. The judge's question, "Did you commit this crime?" The suspect's answer, "Yes, I did it knowingly for financial gain." Court hearings would last a few minutes. Wrongful convictions would disappear as a phenomenon. Lawyers would no longer search for loopholes in the law to justify the guilty. Their role would be reduced to properly interpreting mitigating circumstances. Rapid progress in science. Science moves forward through the testing of hypotheses. However, scientists sometimes adjust experimental results to fit their theories or hide unsuccessful experiments. In a world of absolute truth, science would make a colossal leap forward. All scientific publications would contain only reliable data. Scientists would immediately admit when their concepts were wrong, saving decades of work and billions of dollars. Medicine and relationships with patients. Doctors would no longer be able to hide diagnoses or give false hope. On the one hand, this would require enormous courage from patients. On the other hand, patients would always know the real situation and could make conscious decisions about their treatment or how to organize their lives. Psychology and human relationships, a new ethics. Human psychology would undergo some of the greatest changes. Lying is the defense mechanism of our psyche. We lie to others to avoid conflicts, but most often, we lie to ourselves. The transformation of language and communication. People would have to learn how to speak all over again. Since lying would be impossible, language would become more measured and slower. People would be stopped by the fear of telling a hurtful truth. People would begin to remain silent more often. Pauses in conversations would become longer because everyone would have to formulate their thoughts in a way that was truthful but did not completely destroy the relationship. New linguistic constructions would appear. Instead of lying, people would master the art of stating facts without emotional judgments. Instead of, "Your new dress is horrible," a person would say, "The color of this dress does not match my personal aesthetic preferences." The fall of masks and the elimination of insecurities. In the modern world, people spend an enormous amount of resources maintaining a facade. We pretend to be richer, smarter, and happier than we really are. We post perfect photos on social media and pretend to be successful. In a world without lies, this facade would collapse. Everyone would know everyone's real situation. You could no longer pretend to be a successful entrepreneur if you were on the verge of bankruptcy. You could not pretend to be a perfect family if constant arguments were taking place at home. This would have an unexpected therapeutic effect. The need to conform to imaginary standards would disappear. People would feel relief because they would no longer have to wear heavy social masks. Anxiety associated with comparing oneself to others would rapidly decrease. The evolution of empathy and politeness. Politeness in a world of truth would change its direction. If politeness used to mean hiding unpleasant facts, no, you haven't gained any weight at all. Then now politeness would mean knowing how to tell a difficult truth with maximum care and empathy. Society would learn to distinguish between truth as a weapon, when a person says unpleasant things with the intention of hurting someone, and truth as help. A high culture of emotional intelligence would emerge. Self-deception, the last refuge of lies. there is one important nuance that is often overlooked. What should we do about self-deception? A person may sincerely believe something that is actually wrong. If a person says they have a unique talent, they are not lying. They genuinely believe it. If a person is sincerely convinced that their partner is not cheating on them, they will say this completely honestly. Therefore, a world where people tell only the truth will not automatically become a world without mistakes. It will be a world where people say only what they sincerely believe. This would lead humanity to take the examination of its own beliefs much more seriously. People would understand that in order to speak objective truth, it is not enough simply to be honest. You also need to be educated, thoughtful, and free from bias. Are we ready for such a reality? A world of absolute truth is not a rosy utopia. It is a harsh, crystal clear, and initially very painful environment. It is a world where romantic mystery and flirting in the familiar sense would disappear. Businesses built on human weaknesses would collapse, and every person would have to face a mirror that shows their true essence without any filters. But at the same time, it would be a world where betrayal, treachery, corruption, wrongful convictions, and falseness would disappear. It would be a world where words would once again regain their original weight, and trust would become the basic state of things. We would lose the cozy blanket of soft illusions, but in return, we would gain a solid foundation of reality. Be sure to like this video/material and leave your comment. What do you think would collapse first in a world of absolute truth? Global politics or family marriages? And would you yourself be able to survive in such a reality?